Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. Thank you so much for joining us. Joining me today is Travis.
Not clunky.
And Paul Tassi. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me back again.
Brian's just on permanent hiatus, so
yeah,
I'll be inviting you on the show more often.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man, today it's going to be a really, really interesting episode. We have so much to go over. Bungie revealed their full rundown of everything that's going to be vaulted, so we kind of know what to expect there, and it is a lot to get over. So let me start by saying last week I said there's no way I'm going to do those armor sets. I did all three characters. I'm something. Yeah.
It gets a lot easier though. It snowballs because of the multiplier. So,
yeah. It starts snowballing. So basically you do your main character all the way through. As soon as you get to the purple one, though, the multiplier starts on the blue sets, so you can tear through the blue sets really quick. But anyway, got to do trials this weekend. Took me 2 weeks, so I'm a filthy casual in the Destiny community.
4 days. Oh, you think you're casual? I still have blue armor, man, on my first character. So this is my weekend. This is my weekend to grind. I'm going to catch up on everything. But yeah. Also, I feel like we should state the fact that we're going to talk about the Destiny content vault, which. This week, which how many times have we talked about vaults in Destiny? And then now we're talking about a different type of vault. So we spend a lot of time talking about vaults on the show.
There are a lot of vaults. The vault, you put stuff in.
There's the vault of glass. There's just lots of vaults.
lot of vault things. Shackle Shotgun on Twitter usually does a good roundup of information, and looks like Cosmo and such have talked about the DCV and sort of how Transmog is going to work. I'll read over that a little bit later. Let's get into the content vault, and we're just going to go down the list of what is being vaulted. Strikes. And like, if you only get your information from the show, I highly recommend you read the TWAB this week, because it is just so much, and you're going to want to know what is being
a lot of tables. So many tables.
Yeah.
Spreadsheets.
Lot of tables
you like
here.
Spreadsheets? We got them.
Yeah. So what's moving into the vault? Pyramidion, Festering Core for Strikes, Savathun's Song. That's the one on Titan. On Mars, Strange Terrain, Will of the Thousands. Will of the Thousands is like a really fast strike that I like to melt the boss at. Mercury, Tree of Probabilities, Garden Roll. Those can stay there. Gambit and Gambit Prime are being merged, but we're also losing some of the maps. We're losing Cathedral of Scars and Kel's Grave. On the Cathedral of Scars is the one in Dreaming City. Kel's Grave is the one on Tangled Shore.
I will not miss Kel's Grave, let me tell you.
Crucible, yeah. Crucible, is Kel's Grave the one on, which one is that?
It's the one
that's where you can fall into the lava.
Yep, there's lava everywhere.
Those two
are
only regular Gambit maps, which I think is why they're leaving. But.
Yeah, honestly, Deep 6 can go. It's just too big. I like the rotating. Like, they did a lot of interesting things programming-wise, but for me, Deep 6 is just too large of a map. I really like the Emerald Coast, though. I'm glad that's staying. And, yeah, Gambit's being...
Are we going through everything, or are we?
I want to go through everything first. I want to go through everything, then we'll go back to the top. So Crucible, here's what's getting vaulted. I'll just speed on through it so people get their info. Moving into the DCV, we got Meltdown, Solitude, Retribution, the Citadel, Emperor's Respite, Equinox, Eternity, Firebase Echo, Gambler's Ruin, Legion's Gulch, and Vostok, which I feel like we just got. PvP modes going into the vault: Supremacy, Countdown, Lockdown, Breakthrough, Doubles, Momentum Control, and Scorched. Raids and dungeons, none of the dungeons are going into the DCV, which is awesome. Raids going into DCV, everything on Leviathan. So Leviathan, Eater World, Spire of Stars, Scourge of the Past, and Crown of Sorrows, all those are going into the DCV. Exotic quests. Oh my goodness. If you want to acquire these exotics via their original quests, do so prior to the end of season Ravels. Sturm, Mida, Rackang, Acrius, Sleeper, Polaris, Worldline Zero, Ace of Spades, Last Word, Lay Monarch, Jotun, Izanagi's Burden, Thorn, Lumina, Truth, Bad Juju, and then the catalysts for a lot of those: Bad Juju, Huckleberry, Izanagi's, Acreus, Polaris, Lance, Skyburners, Sleeper, Telesto, Outbreak Perfected, Whisper of the Worm, Worldline Zero, which is a 5-week-long quest, I believe, still. So I started that on my character, and I think that is all of the stuff.
No, it's not.
Oh, what did I miss here?
Yeah,
we're done with the tables, but we have 0 Hour, we have the Forges, and we have Reckoning, and we have the entire Red War campaign.
Yeah.
So those are all things that we didn't know were going for sure. Some people suspected, but this is the first confirmation, I think, for any of those that they're all going.
So I guessed that this was going to happen, and that's why my YouTube channel got flooded with a collection of all the story missions and everything over there. So, yeah, I just kind of got those more for posterity's sake, for myself. If I ever want to do features about Destiny in the future, we can just pull them out of there. But there's a complete collection of all the story content. But yeah, when something goes into the vault,
life chronicler, that's your YouTube channel now.
Chronicler.
I don't know, man. It's just, we're losing it, and we're not going to get back Red War. It's just gone. They're not going to.
They might bring it back eventually. Campaign. That's a solid campaign.
They're going to bring back that whole campaign. They can't. How?
I don't think they can. They'd have to put in all at least 2 full planets back in to make that work.
And that video is like 2 hours long. Yeah, so
maybe at the end of Destiny, they'll bring it all back. Who knows? Just as a final last hurrah.
It's just so much to ingest. I don't even think I've fully processed what it is doing. 801 Black Armory, Season of the Forge quests are gone. Gambit Prime Reckoning and Season of the Drifter quest. Benedict 66, Werner 99, Menagerie, Season of Opulence, Pinnacle and Pursuit, Weapon quests. Oh, damn. I didn't even think of that.
It's almost half the game. I'm trying to do the math in my head, and I think it's 40 to 50% of the game. Some areas more than others.
I read this. Raids, it's 80% of the game.
When I read this, I read it slow and painstakingly, and I read it again, and I still haven't processed just how much they are getting rid of. So let's go through it again. Core activity-wise, strikes. How do you guys feel about the strikes being vaulted? Is this a big hit? There's some good ones on here.
Yeah, there are some good ones. The thing about strikes is that my main complaint about them is that I keep doing the same ones over and over again. So these are just ones that I don't have to do over and over again anymore. However, it now lowers the pool, and they're only replacing it with 1 strike in the new one. They're getting 1 new strike, and at least that's kind of what their table would imply.
And 1 Destiny.
Yeah, exactly. And then the old one from Destiny. So it's 2 strikes replacing 5 or 6, I think.
7.
That are leaving. 7. It's 7 strikes that are leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say too. Because it's I'm sick of doing some of the 7, and those aren't all the best strikes necessarily. But for instance, when the Citadel comes up, I hate running Citadel and just the normal strike playlist because it's twice as long as everything else. So I usually just peace out. Now I have double the chance of getting Citadel in the rotation because there are 7 less strikes now. So it's just dramatically reduced the pool. And I guess they're going to build it up over time. By the end of the year, we should have 4 more because they're porting in at least some version of 3 from Cosmodrome from Destiny 1, and then 1, I assume 1 Europa one. But that's going to not be great because you're going to get a lot of you're still going to be getting I don't know what the final number is, but 10 of the old strikes that you have been running indefinitely already. That's and so you're just going to be doing those more and more and more and more. So Exodus Crash, Inverted Spire. I cannot count how many times I've done Inverted Spire at this point, but because that's on Nessus, that's staying. And now I'm going to do it even more because it's going to come up even more often. So that's not great.
A positive on the strike front, we're getting Devil's Lair back, probably one of the most common strikes you ran in Destiny 1, and Fallen Saber from Destiny 1 also is coming because Cosmodrome is also coming back. That will come in year 4. Man, they have all this terminology year 4, and then they have season 12 and November 10th, and it's just it's
you
just
have to get a date planner just to keep track of all.
We also don't know how long the new season's going to be because it's starting in November.
Yeah, that's true.
It could either be a month or all the other seasons could be pushed back. We don't really know that yet.
I still think they're doing way too many seasons personally.
I mean, they might just straight cut one this year. Honestly,
they should.
Mm-hmm.
There should be like 3 seasons
a
year or 2.
Yeah, because I mean, with the 2-month delay, that's 10 months. So you'd have like 3 seasons that are 3 1/3 month long. So if I was them, I might just cut one if they're shooting for a September release next year for Witch Queen.
All right. So let's move on to the next one. Gambit and Gambit Prime are being merged together into one mode, and we're getting a few items that are thrown into the DCV. The new mode is basically going to be more like Gambit Prime, where there's one boss phase. And what did they say specifically here?
They're doing things like moat, drain, and then they're changing the primeval phase to some degree. I assume they're going to make it so you can't, because like regular Gambit primeval burn now is insane. Like it's they haven't remotely tried to balance it. So like if the other team summons a primeval and has any idea what they're doing, like it'll be dead in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
So
oppressive, all swords, it's dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not even close.
Yeah. So honestly, I like using main Gambit for grinding enemy kills and stuff like that. There's like right now the story quests often have you do Gambit, and I just do regular Gambit because I can do it in 2 Gambit runs. A lot of people do Reckoning also because that's supposed to be really, really quick. So that's a noticeable change. I don't think this is going to impact how many people play Gambit unless there's missions that actually force us to go back in there. I think those of us that were Gambit fans have largely seen that our fanship, we'll call it, has run its course. We get Gambit. We've mastered it. I can't stand going into it now. How do you guys feel about it
anymore? This seems like they're really winding it down because again, it's the map thing. So they're just cutting 2 maps. Like there's only 6 maps in the first place and you're cutting 2 maps. Like that's not good. And I assume they're doing that because it's going to be the prime setup of enemies where like, I guess they couldn't fit all the big prime bosses or something into the smaller other maps they're cutting, but they're also cutting like prime armor and armor perks. And they said maybe we'll put them in mods or something down the line. But like they've just really shrunk Gambit now to kind of its base essence. And I'm having a hard time understanding when they're going to like go back and do some big Gambit revitalization. And like, I just don't really imagine that happening, frankly. So
yeah, I had kind of the same reaction. This seems to me like a death knell for Gambit because this kind of reminds me of when they took Trials of the Nine out of the game and said, we're just going to work on it for a little bit. And then it was gone for years, and it was basically just dead. I kind of see Gambit getting wind down to its core components. And I don't know if it's going to remain a core activity, especially if the player base drops off. Consolidating it to one activity could help its player count, but I mean, they're removing maps. I do not see them dedicating time to making more maps in the future, which now means there's going to be only 4 indefinitely. And unless they keep making quests and bounties that force players to do it, I just don't see this really making a comeback, maybe ever, or if it does, it'll be like, Trials of Osiris, where it was just gone for years, and then they brought it back as like with a lot of fanfare, like, hey, that thing you loved is back. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of people who love Gambit, at least that I know. So I don't know if we'll ever see it come back.
And if this is true, like they got to stop treating it like the third pillar of the game, where it's like we have the Strike playlist, the Strike Vanguard, and Crucible, and the Crucible.
That's marketing, right?
No, but like, no, it's not just marketing. It's pretty much having all these bounties, having the Drifter be this vendor, giving him all these pinnacle drops, and like they're treating it like a third pillar of the game when it's got like now it's going to have 1 mode and 4 maps and not really any dedicated loot anymore either. So like I hope they stop forcing us to do Gambit as much as they have been, because it's clearly just it's not on the same level as the Strike playlist or Crucible.
Yeah, for sure. And I just feel like Gambit's run its course. I'm glad they're winding it down. I hope they put that effort more towards Trials. I think Trials definitely needs TLC. We've talked about this on the show with you, actually, Paul. So let's actually use that as a jumping off point to go into Crucible. Crucible is getting slashed pretty massively.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 maps? Let me recount. 11 maps, including Vostok, which I actually think is a really, really good map. I think Equinox is a fan favorite. How did you guys react
to the Leviathan map?
No, Leviathan map can go. Yeah. Did any of these sting for you guys?
I don't really understand the reasoning behind removing Crucible maps at all. Like, I don't think that it really impacts the story. If you like we kind of talked about this a couple episodes ago, but you could justify anything. You could be like, "Oh, we're on Mars because we're reliving a memory or whatever." But yeah, I don't really get the lore part of it. And then removing maps seems like a net negative to me because I don't think having fewer maps enhances Crucible inherently. Getting rid of ones that are bad, I'm like all for, like Emperor's Respite, like that needed to go years ago. But like some of these, I'm just a little confused by.
Well, I think
they're actually not doing it tied to destinations. So for Gambit and Crucible, it's like these aren't getting removed because they're tied to sunsetting locations. I didn't really care that much about this because most of these on this list are either kind of out of rotation already in a lot of the modes, or they're just terrible. Like the Citadel is my least favorite map in the game by far. Meltdown.
Oh yeah, that
Meltdown's really good. Yeah, Vostok's really good. Like those are pretty well balanced maps in my opinion. But like the ones you guys are mentioning, yeah, who cares?
I guess the idea is that I think it's easier to rotate back in Crucible maps like whenever they want. Like half these maps are already essentially in the content vault because of how infrequently they're used. So I don't really think the content vault changes Crucible all that much because taking maps in and out of it is not a huge deal. I'm more curious about, because there are no like redacted Europa maps or anything listed here. I would be amazed if they did. I would be amazed if they didn't add any Crucible maps with this expansion. Like I can't imagine that's what is going to happen. But they teased the strike that's redacted, and they didn't tease any redacted Crucible maps. So well, it's possible, but that would be a big bummer.
Yeah. I'm just wondering the reasoning behind getting rid of maps, because getting rid of playlists I get because it consolidates the player base, but getting rid of maps doesn't really do the thing that they're talking about that they need help with, which is like focusing the player's attention, right? Like you get put into a playlist, map is chosen for you. It's not like it affects your experience at all to have more maps. So I don't know. It's just I don't know if I understand like the reasoning behind the choice just yet.
Well, what about the modes, Travis? You said you don't really mind the modes. We're losing Supremacy, Countdown, Lockdown, Breakthrough, Doubles, Momentum Control, and Scorched. I don't care so much about Scorched or Momentum Control, but
or Supremacy. I mean, who likes Supremacy? Yeah, Momentum Control is the one. I don't care about it all. Yeah, Momentum Control was the one that stuck out to me as like being bad. But again, they put an asterisk next to it, like, hey, it's coming back in year 4. So that's not really getting rid of it. It's coming
Momentum
back.
And Scorched are coming back, but the Countdown mode, which is what they built Trials around in the launch of Destiny 2.
They don't need it anymore.
Yeah. Like they're just like, we give up on that. No one like that.
Yes. So for me, getting rid of playlists makes sense to me, or like game types, because it consolidates attention. It reduces the need for separate playlists. That I get, and I don't think we're really losing anything in this. It's really the maps that confuses me more than anything else. And it could be that the maps don't match those play modes that they're keeping in. Maybe that's kind of their problem with it. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm just glad Supremacy is leaving. That's my comment on this. That's my hot take on this list of modes getting removed.
This episode is largely reactionary, but am I crazy in thinking that they said they were going to look more at PvP in the near future? And I don't see anything about PvP in November on this list. There's no asterisks, there's no redacted maps, there's no redacted modes, nothing. So do you guys think that they're going to be refining at least the core aspects of PvP? I think PvP is in a pretty good place. There are some outliers that need to be adjusted, but yeah.
My guess is the season after, because that's when the Trials reset is happening, is the season after this next one, where they're getting new armor and I assume some new weapons and stuff. So I still would be surprised if there were no new Crucible maps at all. I think that would rub some people the wrong way. But if there is a focus on Crucible to certain extent, it's probably going to be the season after. And I don't really think there need to be like huge sweeping overhauls to Crucible, and like new weapons are going to change the meta anyway, and sunsetting obviously will change Trials and Iron Banner significantly. So I think they're probably just going to see how that is their Crucible balancing in a way, where it's like, you can't really use Revoke or Mountaintop and Trials anymore. So we'll see how that goes, and they'll probably take a season to figure out, the end result of that.
Yeah, for me,
I think there's really. Go ahead.
No, you first.
I was just gonna say, I think there's like two roads, right? Like either they're playing it super close to the chest, right, and they're just not revealing the fact that they have Crucible stuff and that there's going to be new maps, or this is something that maybe they're backing away on because the last time they released something that focused on Crucible, it didn't go really well. Like the whole Trials season was, by most accounts, like one of the worst seasons in terms of the PvP content. And I think that this is a return to the focus on PvE, especially since that seems to be the content that people enjoy more. And also, they've been lacking in it for a while, right? Like we haven't gotten a raid in a while. We got the dungeon most recently. That's probably the biggest piece of PvE content. But PvE players are probably hurting right now for some substantial meaty content. I'm not a PvE main, but that's what I would be thinking.
That's a good point, Travis. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the endgame content now, because there was actually a positive with all these things being vaulted, and that is that Prophecy is actually going to stay. They had originally said that that was going to go into the DCV. Now all the dungeons are staying. Dungeons are 3-person activities. Everybody who watches this show knows what dungeons are. But anyway, we're getting Shattered Throne, Pit of Heresy, and Prophecy. They're all staying. So that's actually a positive, meaning you can do a lot of the quests associated with them. You can still get that high stat roll armor, or at least materials in a farmable way. This was a good thing, right?
Well, they said it's going off for a little while. They said. So I think this is in between them saying before it was taking a full season off, and now maybe it's just, I mean, it could be like a couple days if they have to just do a tech update, or it could be a couple weeks, but it does seem like it'll be less than a full season. We have to wait for it to return, which is good.
Yeah. And then on the raid front, all of the Leviathan raids going into the DCV, they must be big assets for them to make that decision. That's a lot of content, and I don't really understand why would they get rid of it.
Well, I think Leviathan as a whole is probably the biggest area in the game, I think.
Yeah.
Like we don't know that because it's not a patrol zone, so we don't like run around Leviathan. But like when you add all the stuff together that is in Leviathan between 4 raids, Menagerie, and Tribute Hall, that's a ton of space. So that's my guess.
We lose Tribute Hall too. Yeah, so we lose anything associated with Leviathan, basically. And Tribute Hall, like, basically get your Catalyst out of there now while you can, because we're going to talk about Catalyst next, but those are going away for at least 2 seasons. They said we're on 11. Yeah, so season 13 or 14 is when a lot of these exotic catalysts, exotic quests would be returning, according to the TWAB here. Travis, do you care that they're being vaulted? The Leviathan raids? Yeah.
Oh, no way. Take them. The Triumph Hall is a big loss, and I don't know if we know we're losing Menagerie, but that is a Leviathan location, so I would assume. Yeah. I think Menagerie and the Tribute Hall are really the only things I'll miss. They can bring back those raids later on if there's some fun take on them, but I don't enjoy doing those raids anymore. I've been burned out on them way too much.
One of the
people are sad about Scourge.
Yeah. Scourge. Oh, yeah, because it's in an area that's staying. One of the smartest things they did, though, is they made these raids farmable. I think if they're worried about like people just getting powerful too fast, just make 1 pinnacle drop per week, and then the rest of them just drop at level or something. Or
maybe like the dungeon. They should just do the dungeon thing.
Yeah, so you can farm the gear that you want. Like Prophecy is a really great example of how to do it right. It gives people more incentive to run the raids. It has been nice going back and running them again, but I'm also totally fine. Like, I don't like Crown. I actually really despise Scourge. Even
because you had to run it 50 times.
Yeah, I don't like Scourge. I don't like Spire Eater. Yeah, because I had to do it 50 times to get Anarchy. Thankfully, that has been patched. But this impacts some of the other items in the game, including the Sleeper Simulant Catalyst and the what's the other one from the raid? Telesto Catalyst.
Telesto.
Yeah, so make sure
and Acreus. Actually.
Acreus. Yeah, so I want to talk specifically about Catalyst. There's a lot of exotics that are just going to be fine, but these Catalysts, you're going to want to get them before they get vaulted, because if any of these weapons do end up getting beefed up, for example, you're going to want to have the most powerful version, and you won't be able to get that if you don't have the Catalyst until season 13 or 14 at the earliest. So that means a significant period of time before there's even another way to get them. And those, again, were Bad Juju, Huckleberry, Izanagi's. Get Izanagi's. Get Acreus. I don't know about Polaris Lance. Skyburner's Oath is a raid one. Sleeper Simulant, that's being regarded as pretty powerful. That is from Spire. So you're going to want to farm for that. Telesto is just always broken. Two of the most important ones, Outbreak Perfected and Whisper of the Worm. Excellent quests. You definitely want to run before November 10th. Don't miss out on those and get those catalysts if you can. Outbreak Perfected is very laborious in terms of how you get it. And then Worldline Zero, I started that one. That's tied to Escalation Protocol. What is your reaction to this? This for me is like the big, oh my God, you got to get these things ASAP.
Yeah. Travis? So I think this is the biggest loss for me, like pretty hands down. I have every exotic catalyst in the game except Acreus and Telesto, just because it's really hard to find groups to run that on the heroic setting or prestige setting, I guess it's called. And so I just haven't been able to get those, and I've had bad luck with the drops. So this puts pressure on me to get those done and to run it every week, which I might not do. And if I don't do it, and even if I do it and don't get the drops, then I'm going to be kind of out of luck if those weapons rise to prominence. And Telesto is almost always part of the meta. Acreus is a really good gun in certain situations. So not having those catalysts is a big bummer. So yeah, for me, the catalysts and the exotics that are leaving the pool and players not being able to get those. Oh, that's a really cool exotic. How do I get it? Oh, you can't. Oh, they're going to add it again later, but who knows when, that's not going to be a good feeling, I feel like, for players.
Yeah. So if you're hardcore, definitely work on that. What are your thoughts, Paul?
I find this very annoying. I don't think it's like a huge deal, but I think the way they're going about this is very annoying, because this has been a problem for some of these long before we had the Destiny content vault. Like, they should have taken stuff like Telesto and Sleeper out of Prestige, Spire, and Eater like a year ago at least. Like, they should not have been in there to begin with, and now those things are gone, and you're not going to put them anywhere else still. Like, that's crazy. Those, like, I don't care if you make it like somewhat hard to get or whatever, but like, it should be in the game, and we shouldn't have to wait another 6 to 9 months to get those. Like, they already might as well not exist for me, because I'm not going to run that stuff. But like, it's wild to me that they have not come up with a plan to like introduce, these 12 catalysts that probably a pretty low amount of people have in total because of how you got them. And like stuff like Huckleberry, which you get from, I think, like Heroic Mercury and Mars Adventures or something.
Yeah.
Couldn't make that like just
Heroic
any
Adventures.
other.
So the Heroic Adventures, and when we go to the next thing, Adventures are being vaulted. So
Adventures on the planets, right? Not every adventure in the game.
Here's specifically what they said beyond that. When a destination enters the DCV, it's PvE content, including adventures. So, well, the thing is, what's going to be left then? The EDZ adventures?
I mean, each planet has adventures to some extent, right?
Yeah, okay. So EDZ and Nessus, yeah.
Tangled Shore has like the Barren adventures. Those are all adventures technically. Dreaming City doesn't. The Moon doesn't have adventures.
They basically stopped after Curse of Osiris. I guess if you count the Barren adventures, that was season 4. I
didn't really think of that, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bummer. The tougher ones, including Sleeper Simulant and like they're all tied to raids. They're tied to the raids. Just put them anywhere else. Like the fact that
they're putting the raid exotics in some sort of like vendor, like whatever this memorial system is. Like they have some system for that. So I don't know why they're leaving the Catalyst behind at the same time.
Yeah,
and they're very weird.
Worldline Zero, which I'm working on right now, is actually weekly gated. So I'm glad I started it now, because it takes 5 weeks to complete the Catalyst. And with Mars being vaulted, you're not going to be able to hit that final boss for that 20% gain every week. So Worldline Zero, the Catalyst is fairly easy to get. It's just kills with the Worldline Zero sword, and it dropped for me in like an hour of just using the sword to kill as many things as possible. I just put on a heavy finisher mod and just went to town. But yeah. Any of these jump out to you? Like any of these that you guys don't have yet that you're going to kind of get to work on?
Yeah, I have all the exotics. The only catalysts I'm missing are those two from the raids. So it's like
I don't have any of the Leviathan catalysts. I've wanted the Telesto catalyst and the Sleeper catalyst forever, but I am not going to do prestige farming runs to get those. So I just assume they take them out of there eventually because it's so dumb to keep them there. But here we are.
Sleeper is extra complicated. So once you get the catalyst, it's 1,000 kills with like each of the weapons from Escalation Protocol. So not only is it tied in with Escalation Protocol, but it's tied to weapon kills, and it's this whole thing for Sleeper. I have it up here.
I think you can get those ones out of your collection though, right? Because those are static rolls.
Yeah, those weapons. Yeah, it just takes forever, I think.
Kills
I don't
with
think it has
each
to
weapon, 1,000 sniper, 1,000 shotgun, 2,000 submachine gun.
That's so annoying.
No hand cannon.
Yeah, I remember that was so annoying.
That hand cannon has a terrible reload rate.
I don't even care if that requirement stays. Like, I just put the catalyst itself somewhere.
Put it in the game, like put it even if it's in a really dumb barrier like Trials of Osiris, Lighthouse.
Let's not get carried away.
Like I'm just saying, like anywhere is better than nowhere. Like give me some way to get it. Like it's so crazy.
Right,
absolutely.
Alert going off.
It's
Paul's got the commercial.
He's got things to do.
I think it was some sort of like Amber Alert or something.
We got to go to OTT break, so that's what Paul's alarm is for. So some of the lingering items.
Part of the union.
Yeah, some of the lingering items included how Guardians are going to experience the game. So like if you're a new light player, they're actually revamping that experience. We're building a new expanded Guardian origin story on the Cosmodrome that will launch alongside Year 4 and now it's Year 4. What happened to Season 12? Like, are you going with years or are you going with seasons? Come on. Anyway, it'll launch alongside Year 4, Season 12, and be available to all Guardians to play. Year 4, Season 12, Beyond Light. But this is the new light experience that we're talking about. So 5 different terminologies.
More sense for them to
Why
say
is that
Year 4 Season 1? So then they could just do 4 and then it resets back to I'm with you. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I don't get why people are confused by this game. But anyway, a whole new it's designed to introduce you to the world and the mechanics of Destiny and prepare you to play the action MMO game we all enjoy. The Forsaken and Shadowkeep story campaigns will still be playable in Year 4 for owners of these expansions. I really hope they don't get rid of the Forsaken campaign, because just everything that happens in there is so impactful to everything else that has been happening in the game. I hope that stays for a while.
They need to put that in New Light, though. Like, it's time for that to be in New Light after 2 years or whatever it's going to be by then.
Which
for now it's still paid for Forsaken. They should, all that should be added to New Light, starting with Beyond Light.
Well, I mean, that's what they say. It's still going to be available. Do you think it should just be part of the
available to purchase? Like,
they were wanting to buy it. He's saying it should go to the free to play.
You had all of Vanilla D2 when you were getting New Light, and you had the first 2 expansions. Now all of that is gone and is being replaced by, I assume, maybe some Destiny 1 reprise missions in the Cosmodrome. I don't know. Like, it's going to be a lot less, though. So unless you're adding Forsaken to that, you took away a ton of stuff from New Light players, too, because you killed all these campaigns, which is kind of wild.
If you download New Light and make your first character in Destiny, what is like the thing that you do?
It's like the opening quest essentially from Destiny 1.
No, I know that. I mean going forward, because before it was like, okay, obvious progression, like beat the story from D2 base, but like
it wasn't even obvious. You had to like go talk to Amanda Holiday and her secret like quest log. Like I feel like almost everybody missed that. So the setup was bad before, but at least you had access to that stuff. Now I'm assuming they're going to do some sort of early mission walkthrough. Like maybe it will jump around to a couple of the existing planets, but overall, it's going to be a lot less free stuff.
I think they're still going to open with that Destiny 1 opening. I mean, that's been built out really well. I played through that on the IGN Eds account. I played through it at the preview event, and that's a pretty solid experience. It kind of gives you the basics of getting your weapons. You're a Guardian. You've been brought back to life. Go kill stuff. It sets you up, and it kind of gets you to the tower. Now, what they do beyond that, I think they need to do a much better job of, because then it just throws you into the deep end. It's like, I mean, the answer is you go play whatever you want, but it just doesn't feel clear to new players who are trying to figure out how to do things. What else do we got here, Paul? Paul, you mentioned something else earlier in the show, a unique thing that they're doing.
Well, the other stuff they're cutting that we didn't expect is 0 hour, and their rationale is, oh well, the old towers part of the Red War campaign, so that's why we're cutting that destination. And then it's like, okay, but then they're cutting the forges, which are on Earth and Nessus, which are not getting sunset, which has nothing to do with the Red War campaign. So like they're kind of breaking their own rules, like just whenever they want to delete stuff that they just think
they're just cutting forges because they're still upset that we all AFK'd there. That's it.
Yeah, no, I'm playing the forges right now because now that I know they're being sunset, I'm trying to get 100 completions for that ship that I have been putting off for years at this point. So I always thought they could have done something more interesting with the forges, like just refine the farming process a bit, like update the weapons. So they're gone. Like they're not super relevant, but it's
they're
another
vaulted,
activity.
Paul. Okay,
gone now.
They're never gone. They're just
always be with you.
I'm gonna
Reckoning. Reckoning I truly hate. So that is like nothing but good news. I mean, with Gambit Prime not existing and the armor not existing, that's gone, and then all those weapons are now in the general pool. So there's literally no Reckoning.
Paul, that includes the Season of the Drifter quest, which is the Allegiance quest, which turns out was meaningless. So they're just getting rid of that also. So here's what they say specifically. Here's what they say specifically. Question: with the Forsaken campaign, Tangled Shore, and Dreaming City sticking around after Beyond Light's launch, does that mean other Year 2 seasonal content will remain playable in Year 4 too? Answer: no. The Season 2 seasonal content, including Forges, Reckoning, and Menagerie, will be entering the DCV. That's never coming back. Be sure to experience that content and mark the final items off your collections and checklists before they are vaulted. Here's a cheat sheet of what to complete. Ada 1. She's a character, so okay. So anything involving Ada 1.
And a vendor. She gives mods that you can only get from her.
Yep. So use your materials to get the good stuff from her. Black Armory is going away. Season of the Forge quest. Gambit Prime, Reckoning, Season of the Drifter quest. That's Benedict 66, Werner 99, which is where you get your raid gear from, your random rolls. So what's going to happen with those tokens that I have 1,000 of? Menagerie and Season of Opulence quest. So all three of those seasonal things that you purchased, they're just gone. And then Pinnacle and Pursuit weapon quests associated with those, they're gone. They're going to get alternate acquisition methods, but more of that's coming later, probably in Season 14. So you're looking at July 2021 before we hear anything about the weapon quests again. But they're just
essentially deleting 2 entire years of the game. Like almost nothing is staying. It's the planets and then strikes on those planets, and like that's kind of, I guess, some of the adventures. And that's it. I think that now the news this time was that all of Year 2 is being deleted, where before this, we assumed Menagerie was and Tribute Hall because that was a part of Leviathan, and that's what they talked about. But they gave no indication that Forges or Reckoning were going away, and those were not tied to Sunsetting Destination. So it's just sort of it's old enough. We're clearing it out. Like I'm probably going to write an article about this. Like I'm kind of wondering about like the ethics of all this, where it's like it's so much stuff that we paid for over the years that you just no longer have access to, and like it almost makes Destiny a pure subscription model, because like the only other place that kind of happens where it's like Netflix cycles in old like new titles and then takes out old titles, but like you never bought those movies or shows outright, you just have been constantly paying them money. But like this was like a physical purchase, like you literally bought all of these campaigns, like all of this stuff, and like now if you want to access it, it's no longer there. And like
what happens? I got to ask Paul. Sorry to interrupt you, but what happens if you have that Destiny 2 disc and you pop that in your console? What the hell is that experience?
You have to be online.
Now? Is it just New Light?
You have to be online anyway.
On the actual disc, it's just the game will be updated to erase whatever. Like everything on a disc now is like 95% installed to your hard drive once you put the disc in. So
but like that base disc, what's left?
It's useless.
It's all gone.
It's just a rights to enter the game, and all of that is free anyway.
Of the planets that survived, essentially, and then everything else is downloaded. So
yeah, this is an evolution of how games are going to be delivered.
Like I can't think of other games really doing this like to this extent. Like it's granted, like there really are no other games comparable to Destiny, so we're in kind of uncharted territory, but
I mean, this has kind of happened in the past where if you buy a game and you're, for example, even if you buy like Call of Duty, right? And then they sunset like multiplayer, they turn off the servers and you lose access to all of that. And that sort of stuff happens all the time. So I think gamers are kind of used to at least part of their game becoming antiquated and retired. And then you've got a disc that's got basically nothing on it.
It's only been like 3 years, you know, and year 2 stuff. Like,
so this is that happening way faster.
Yeah, it's like playing Legend of Zelda on your Switch. It's like you're playing Legend of Zelda on your Switch, and they're like, "Hey, we're getting rid of the fire area and the ice area. People didn't really like that, but we're replacing it with something a quarter of the size."
Imagine if you bought Destiny 2 and then you just kept it like wrapped and you put it on your backlog, and you're like, "I'll get to it eventually." And then now you're looking at the game, and you're like, "Oh no! Like I ran out of time."
Yeah. It's just very weird. Like I understand that they physically probably need to do this or else the game just becomes literally unupdatable and unsustainable. But the practice, like seeing all this listed out like this and like just straight up losing like 2 years of stuff is pretty wild.
For sure. So final segment of the show. Let's talk about some of the questions that you had, Paul, now that I think we've gone through everything. Is there anything that I missed, guys? That's the whole TWAB.
The farm.
The farm's still there, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh no, it's gone.
Oh, is it? I missed it.
It wasn't mentioned in the TWAB, but it's on the list of like the big list they made. So because
where's the big list? There's another list.
It's linked at the bottom.
Oh my god!
After the vendor list.
I guess so much for my idea of turning that into a in-game LFG space, huh? I guess.
Nope.
Guess that didn't get through to Bungie.
I mean, you only have to go to the farm for Red War and then 0 Hour, and with both of those being gone, it quite literally serves no purpose. So
it's gone. I want to find farm on this page. Yeah, there it goes. Mercury, Mars, Titan, Io, Leviathan, the farm.
I love how it's listed with the other like 6. It's like equal in importance.
The farm is just.
I think the farm is a bigger blow to me leaving the game than like most of the planets that are going. Like honestly, the farm is like the one I'm like. Ugh.
The farm was a good storytelling device for like the base Red War campaigns.
Yeah, for like the final 2 missions.
The final there. Because the final reveal where you end up in the rebuilt tower at the very end. That's a cool moment, like transitioning from the farm to the tower. It's just that the farm doesn't need to exist for any reason after that. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the last? So questions, Paul. You had asked some questions. What, in your opinion, is the biggest loss? We'll start with you, seeing you wrote these.
I think it's the strikes. Honestly, like that is going to really hurt that playlist, and it's going to hurt Nightfalls. Like it's going to hurt every aspect of people who like to grind out strikes, which is kind of the most accessible content. And maybe, I mean, by the end of year 4, I guess we'll have 4 more strikes in there, but at least initially, like a deficit of net 5 strikes. Like you are going to be doing so many of the same old ones, even more than you were before with those cuts in place. So that's my pick for, I think, the biggest blow, even if it's not exactly news compared to some of the other stuff on the list.
Yeah.
Travis?
So for me as a Crucible guy, it's got to be exotics and exotic catalysts. I think like Destiny is ultimately a game about like getting cool weapons and using them. And I think taking them out of the game and making it so there's not a way to use it is kind of a bummer. And then also all of the legendaries. Let's not forget, we've kind of already gotten over this, but they're essentially vaulting, all of the weapons that are not going to be usable once their light levels retired and can't be brought up to the current levels. So I just think like the weapon sandbox, like if I could just describe it as like the one thing I think we're losing the most, it's like weapon sandbox, and that's legendaries, the exotics that are not going to be recoverable, and the catalysts you can no longer find. I think those are really big losses for the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the catalysts, honestly. That should have been a thing that they had figured out. They did this back when we had, God, what was it? Lakshmi and the vendors for, what's it called? Yeah, for the faction
rally.
Yeah, we lost all the things associated with faction rallies, and that was a big hit, and they hadn't figured out anything for that. So we're going through that all again. They're just not ready to address the catalyst issue.
What grand master plan could they possibly have for like reintroducing these like 10 old?
They're never coming back. I think these are gone.
Be any more complicated than like throwing all of them in strikes and Crucible as drops. Like, maybe changing some of the requirements just to be flat kills instead of like doing things in sunset activities. But like, I don't understand why that is harder than it looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think they're going to come back, to be honest.
What about good news? Paul, you put a note here.
I think the one piece of good news is, well, two. No, my number one is that Reckoning is gone, and I never have to do Bridge of Folly again for any reason. Super thrilled about that. I think the Prophecy news is really good, that we are probably going to not be without that for a very short amount of time. At least that's what it's making it seem like, when previously it sounded like at least a full season off of that. But yeah, honestly, Reckoning and Citadel being deleted are probably my two favorite things in general.
Travis, how about you?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing is just consolidating things to focus on for players. That is something that I sympathize with, like Bungie on, is like, you get into the director and it's just like there's so many activities to do and so many weekly rituals to follow up with. And I'm really excited for a version of Destiny where like my checklist is small but better curated and more focused, and hopefully is stuff that I just would rather do. Because like, even this season there was like a period where I was going back and doing forges for some reason, and I'm like, why is this still part of my life? Like, please be gone. So I'm just happy that they're going to kind of like focus up. I think that's the biggest positive.
Yeah, for me, like getting that core experience more streamlined, I think that's a positive note that's coming out of all this. And it's going to be a smaller install size. Destiny was kind of getting out of control, and it's nice. I hope that what this means is that Europa and Beyond Light is just going to be such a huge location that maybe it'll offset a lot of this. But based on what they've said is being added, it doesn't seem like that's the case. There's rumors of like new vendors and anything like that. I'll actually skip around here. So how big do you guys think Europa and Beyond Light is going to be based on this? Travis?
I think the campaign will probably be shorter than Forsaken, I'm guessing. Maybe close to the length, but I don't think it's going to be like as big as like Destiny 2's launch or anything like that. I'm still of the opinion that Beyond Light is like their Rise of Iron year. I think it's like an extra year for them to get ready for the Witch Queen, and I think that's going to be the big expansion. And then beyond that, probably the Darkness one that's happening, Lightfall, will be also really large. But I think it'll maybe be like a Rise of Iron-ish expansion with its own raid, and I think the area will probably be pretty big. But that's never been the question for me with Destiny. It's been, is the area like good? Is it well used? Do I like being there?
Yeah.
Are there interesting things to do and activities that don't make me want to fall asleep on the couch? So that's what I'm concerned with. But yeah, I'm of the opinion that this isn't going to be the world's biggest expansion, and that they're kind of laying the foundation for stuff that they want to do in the future. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's my feeling so far.
Paul?
I'm revising my prediction downward a little bit. Before we knew anything, I thought this was going to be like Rise of Iron year, and we were going to get like the Dreadnought back or something, and it was going to be kind of another Shadowkeep. Then once I started hearing about it, I was hoping that maybe we'd get something like fully on the scale of the Taken King or Forsaken, which had like big new zones, or Forsaken had 2 new zones. Now, kind of knowing what we know, I think it might land somewhere in the middle. I think Europa is going to be pretty big, although if it was that big, wouldn't it have more than one strike in it? Which I'm slightly nervous about that aspect of it now. Like, it does have the raid too and stuff. Cosmodrome really seems like it's going to launch kind of only like half there and like half filled with stuff. Like, they're only having 1 strike initially, and like, I don't really know what they're going to be using that space for. Like, I'm still not clear on that. Like, what exactly the purpose of bringing Cosmodrome back is. Like, because all we know right now is it's literally 1 strike from Destiny 2, and so there could be some story things that happen there as part of the campaign for Beyond Light for whatever reason, even though it's not close to Europa. But it seems like it's something that's going to be built up over the course of the next year. And if that's true, this seems like it would come in smaller than Forsaken. My ultimate hope is that they do what they did with Forsaken and keep an entirely new separate area a secret, which is what they did with the Dreaming City. So I don't, the theory is that it could be like the giant interior of a pyramid ship or something. Like once we complete the main Beyond Light campaign, like that's the new secret space that has its own stuff, and then we unlock a different strike there. Like Bungie's kind of all about their secrets at this point, and I think they understand that people are hyped enough for Beyond Light where I wouldn't put it past them keeping something that big under wraps as a surprise, because they know how well the Dreaming City went over. So that's like my secret hope. My actual expectation is now like somewhere in between Forsaken and Shadowkeep. Like I don't think it's going to be quite as small as Rise of Iron like Travis says, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be as big as I thought it was maybe like a month or so ago.
I do remember they said something about the size of it compared to one of the planets. I don't think it'll be as
Nessus.
Oh, did they say that? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I was just looking for it now while you were giving your answer. I remember them saying something about the size of it, but I can't find it.
I would assume like EDZ Nessus, like not like Titan, but
yeah,
Titan or Io
can't be Titan.
Too small.
Yeah. Scale wise, I would guess something not quite as big as the EDZ, but we are getting the Cosmodrome, and that's pretty substantial size, and we're going to be getting Beyond Light. So I think Beyond Light will be a little bit smaller than the EDZ. Definitely not as anywhere near as dull as Mercury was in terms of the amount of space that you have. So that's just my guess. There was a note that I saw here. So this is from Reddit. Catalyst available to earn again by season 13 or 14. It's sort of up in the air. That's where I got that from. And then ornaments are going to apply. No news on Transmog. So those were a few notes from my Twitter call out begging for info on transmogrification.
They're not going to tell you.
No way.
I guess the last thing that you had that we didn't really address was there anything that surprised you? So, I mean, I could start. The thing that surprised me was that Ada is just going to be gone.
I didn't see the Forges in Reckoning coming. I kind of thought 0 Hour would, but they had given no indication, and there's no destination justification for removing those. It's just your 2 content. So I guess we kind of have to keep in mind that the seasonal model now is going to stop deleting new activities, at least for like the next year. So once we get things like Sundial or whatever, back, they're going to stay in for at least that year. So that may help kind of refill the cup on all these activities that are being deleted. So maybe it's not quite as vast as it sounds, but it is a lot.
Yeah. The thing that surprised me was just the Crucible maps. Again, I don't really understand the logic there. I'm kind of not surprised about all the PvE stuff they're removing, because I see it as like a way to consolidate what players are doing in the game. But yeah, the Crucible maps is still like a head scratcher for me. So
yeah, all I can find about the sizes is 115 gigs, something like that. So
the total game size would be 115 gigs?
Yeah, well, Flight Simulator is 115, and that's planet Earth basically, and then it still streams data to your computer the whole time.
No, those are comparable.
Yeah. So reaction wise, I don't know. It's just interesting. I'm surprised by how much is being vaulted. I want to know more. The reason I'm sad about the Ada thing, just really quick, is because with the Deepstone Crypt being the new raid location, I have to imagine she's going to be involved in some way, because her story is actually super interesting. It's just such a shame that it was just hidden away in the game. Like, it's really actually difficult to get her story missions because it just didn't seem like a clear quest. But anyway, Travis, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, if I could just have one more question before we wrap up, is
hit us.
What do you guys hope that they take out of the vault first?
Stuff
and this is including D1 and D2. Yeah. Like, what if you could choose one thing that they would take out?
It's probably 2 separate questions. I mean, for Destiny 1, probably the Dreadnought and all of that stuff. I would like to see that return. Prison of Elders also kind of maybe too, though. I think that would be, although jiving that with the existing version of Prison of Elders that we were running strikes in is kind of weird. If those would both exist at the same time. Destiny 2, I hope they find a way to bring Menagerie back and kind of repurpose it. I think that was just a good all-around grind activity that they never did enough with. They never rotated the loot pool or did really anything that cool with it, even though it was a very good kind of micro raid baseline match-made activity. So I would like to see that return. So.
The raids,
I guess
Vault of Glass, man.
Yeah,
we didn't really mention that. But
that's cheating.
well, that's something that I'm excited about. If there was something else I want to see Wrath of the Machine. I think that was a really, really solid raid, and we have the gear.
Wrath.
Pardon?
I bet they'll do Wrath for sure.
Oh yeah,
that would be great.
Definitely. And Hawkmoon. I forgot to mention that. We're getting Hawkmoon coming back. Are there a lot of people have said Icebreaker. Do you guys want to see Icebreaker make a return or no?
Yes.
Nope.
Yes, I do. It will break the game. Let's do it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, they're changing Hawkmoon, so like the thing about it that was interesting, it doesn't exist anymore. So maybe they could change
it'll be Icebreaker, except it doesn't respond to ammo.
Gun that looks like Icebreaker and doesn't regenerate ammo, which is like the whole point. If they change it into something cool, like sure, I know they're not going to bring it back with the ammo generation, which is probably a good thing.
Or they'll make it a catalyst to do it, and then they'll make that unacquirable in the game.
Prestige Fire Stars, which is in the content vault.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way to get the catalyst that actually makes the gun do what you want it to do.
Okay. Separate question, and this is the last one. What's something that you hope stays in the vault?
Ooh.
Crucible Cyrus. No.
Oh yeah, you did. You did an article of things you want.
Obviously, it's Reckoning for me. I hate that so much. And like I've even been doing it this freaking season with the stupid requirements for the story quests because it's technically the most efficient way to get umbral traces. And like I will never stop being mad for my random ass teammates failing the Bridge of Folly because they won't stand in the circle or won't kill this. I just
realized what I want to get rid of. What I hope just perishes from Destiny for all time is the Infinite Forest and any activity having to do with it. I'm talking Festival of the Lost. I'm talking I don't want to see it. I'm tired of that loading screen of a game mode. Just go away.
Wait. So this is my final question, not to keep adding final questions.
I didn't get to say mine.
We all have 3 final questions. Go ahead, Dustin. What do you want us to do?
Mine was just any of the currencies, like just delete them from my inventory.
Strange coins are coming back, baby.
Like, looking at my vault right now, here's some weird currencies that can just burn in hell. Black Armory schematics, modulus reports, pure matter glass lenses, ghost fragments.
Hey, Destin.
Phantasmal cores, Rasputin armory cores, all those can go.
When they add the catalysts back in that they're taking out, the only way to get them will be through those materials after you've deleted them. You're going to have to be grinding those, and they're going to ask for 1,000 chocolate strange coins. You're going to be so upset.
Finest matter weave and Rainmaker.
My final question was related to Infinite Forest, where because of the delay, Festival of the Lost was going to be out after Mercury and Infinite Forest were gone. So do you think that Festival of the Lost is going to not be the Haunted Forest this time and there's something else planned? Or do you think it's even more of a reason for them to just copy and paste it because now they're really kind of scrambling?
I think they were going to copy and paste it regardless. I think they're going to take
it would have been
out,
right? It would have been sunset, so literally wouldn't have been in the game if it came out on time after Beyond Light in September.
I hope they do something
I think
special.
that they're just going to put it in. Yeah, me too.
Well, they used to do the thing where the spider comes over your lens when you're sniping. It's kind of
that's so it really redeems the mode, Dustin. Let's just You have to use a consumable.
I think that's everything we wanted to go over for this episode. We went way longer than I expected. I thought this would be like a 30, 40-minute episode. We're at 60 minutes right now. So thank you, Paul.
It's big week.
Yeah, it's definitely a big week. There's a lot to think about.
I can talk all day. You know me.
Yeah, for sure. Paul, where can people find you if they don't already know?
At Paul Tassi on Twitter. Google me for my articles. Look for me on YouTube because that's a thing now. And then I wrote some books on Amazon. You can find too. So
is your book still on sale?
Find me.
Oh, I think so. I have to check. It might not be anymore. It was my 4th book was $2 for a while, but
it's a bestseller too.
It's a bestseller. No, it's back up again, but still buy it anyway because that would be nice. Thank you.
Got it right here. I'm on page.
Boom. He's ready to read it.
12 of 443.
12. All right, you're getting there.
I'm cruising.
Progress.
They're still in the bar.
I do not have a book, but you can find me at Ty Guy Travis on Twitter.
I just took down your lower third. There it is again. Boom. You can find me at Destin Legary on Twitter. Thank you both for just sort of talking about this. This is such a big week for Destiny. Let us know what you think about all the content vaulting stuff in the comments below. Thank you guys. And until next time, everybody, Guardians out.
Guardians out.